After my cancer went into remission, I hosted a dinner to thank everyone who helped me. My brother showed up drunk and said, "So are we done talking about your illness now?" Everyone laughed. I tried to toast the nurses who saved me, and my aunt cut me off with a joke about my wig. No one objected. I left my own celebration in silence. That night, I deleted every contact except my best friend. The next morning, my mother called and said, "You were cold last night." Everyone noticed. Last year, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. I live in Dayton, Ohio, and back then, I didn't think I'd ever see another Christmas. It hit hard and fast. One month I had a weird pain in my neck. The next, I was sitting in a cold room with a doctor saying words like aggressive and intensive treatment. I was 34 and had always been healthy. Then my life became a cycle of 4 bags, nausea, weight loss, and pain that felt like it came from somewhere deeper than my bones. There were nights I'd sit on the floor of my shower, curled up, bald and shivering, trying to remember what it felt like to not want to die. Some people showed up. My best friend Tara never missed a chemo session. She worked part-time just to be able to drive me when I couldn't hold the steering wheel. The nurses, I can't even talk about them without crying. They weren't just doing their jobs. They kept me sane, held my hand, rubbed my back while I puked. One even sat with me on Christmas Eve, long after her shift ended, because she knew I had no one else coming. But my family? My brother Dave didn't call once during the first few months. My mom would text sometimes, but mostly about herself, how hard it was for her, how no one talks about what the parents go through. My Aunt Shelley sent me a prayer candle and then blocked me on Facebook when I didn't say thank you fast enough. Still, when I went into remission, I told myself, they tried. Maybe they didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe they were scared. I wanted to believe the best. I wanted to believe people could come back from their worst selves. So I planned a dinner. I booked the back room of my favorite Italian place, the one with the red booths and the garlic knots I dreamed about during chemo. I invited the nurses who helped save my life. I invited Tara, of course. And I invited my family, my mom, Dave, Aunt Shelley, my dad, and a couple cousins. I wanted one peaceful night. A thank you night. A reset. The night of the dinner, I wore a dress I hadn't been able to fit into in over a year. I wore the wig I picked out after my final round of chemo. I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You're still here." Everyone was already seated when I walked in. Dave showed up 10 minutes later, smelling like beer. His shirt was wrinkled. He dropped into his seat with a loud sigh and said, "So, are we done talking about your illness now, or is this still the cancer show?" I laughed, not because it was funny, because I didn't know what else to do. Then I looked around. No one said anything. Shelley giggled. My dad smirked. My mom smiled and sipped her wine like it was any other family dinner. Even my cousins snorted. I looked across the table and only Tara looked at me. Her face was pale. I tried to move on. Halfway through the main course, I stood up and tapped my glass. My hands were shaking, but I was ready. "I just want to take a moment," I said, "to thank a few people. The nurses here tonight, Angela, Bree, and Thomas, you're the reason I'm still standing. You weren't just caregivers. You treated me like a person when I felt like nothing but a disease." People clapped, kind of. Tara did. The nurses nodded, a little uncomfortable. And then Aunt Shelley said, "And let's not forget that wig. I thought you were going for a Dolly Parton drag look." Laughter again. Dave laughed the loudest. I froze. I looked at my mom. Nothing. She was buttering her bread. My dad looked at the TV screen in the corner. Not a single person said, "That's not okay." Not one. I stood there, holding a glass, feeling smaller than I had during chemo. I walked out. Tara followed me outside. I was already in the parking lot, trying not to cry. She asked if I wanted her to drive me home. I told her no. I said I just needed air. I got in my car and drove aimlessly through Dayton until after midnight. I parked outside the cancer center and stared at the building that nearly broke me. And then I pulled out my phone. I deleted every single contact except Tara. No messages. No warnings. I didn't block them. I wanted them to feel that silence. To wonder. To ask themselves what they did. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mom. "You were cold last night," she said. Everyone noticed. I didn't say a word. She continued. "That dinner was supposed to be a celebration, not a guilt trip. You embarrassed yourself." That was it. That was the moment I realized I'd survived cancer, but the real poison was them. And I was done pretending otherwise. But I didn't just walk away quietly. This was going to be the long kind of revenge. I didn't answer my mom's call. After she said I was cold, I hung up. She tried texting a few times. "You misunderstood the tone," she wrote. "You're being dramatic. You should apologize to Shelley." She was trying to lighten the mood. I didn't reply. 2 days later, Dave sent a text. All it said was, "You've always made everything about you." That was the last message I got from him. Tara came over the day after the dinner with a bag of groceries and a look on her face like she was scared I might break. I didn't cry. I just told her what I planned to do. "I'm done with them," I said. "But I'm not just going to fade out. I want them to feel it." "Feel what?" she asked. "Themselves," I said. "I want them to sit in the silence and realize what kind of people they are." I started small. I wrote a long thank you letter to the nurses who'd come to the dinner. I mailed each one a personalized version, and in every letter, I included this line: "I'm sorry you had to witness my family at their worst. They weren't there for me when I was sick, and now they've reminded me who they truly are." I heard later that one of the nurses shared her letter on Facebook. It got shared hundreds of times. People were commenting about how families can be more damaging than the disease. Some of my distant relatives even saw it. One cousin I barely talked to DM'd me, "What the hell happened at that dinner?" I didn't answer. I let the silence do the work. Then I posted on Facebook, not directly calling anyone out, but writing, "It's amazing who shows up for you when you're dying and who disappears the minute it's inconvenient. I'm grateful for the real ones. The rest of you can stay gone." That post exploded. Old friends reached out, even people from high school. But more importantly, I knew it burned in the ears of every family member who read it. And Shelley stopped tagging me in her church posts. My mom unfriended me. Dave, too. But that wasn't enough. Because silence and social media don't sting forever. So I waited a few weeks. And then I RSVP'd to my cousin Brianna's wedding. It was the one family event I hadn't been disinvited from yet. She'd sent the invite months ago, before the cancer was even in remission. I'd originally planned to skip it, but now I had a reason to go. I showed up in a long black dress. No wig. Bald. Bold. Eyes lined like steel. I walked into that church like I was walking into battle. Dave saw me first. He was by the bar. I saw the color drain from his face. My mom was standing near the front. Her jaw tightened when she saw me. She leaned over and whispered something to Shelley, who turned and gave me that fake laugh-smile combo she always did when she was uncomfortable. I didn't cause a scene. I just made sure I was seen. During dinner, I got up and went to the mic during open toasts. People shifted in their seats. I saw Tara watching from a corner, nodding once. "I just want to say," I said into the mic, "that being alive is a gift. Some people fight to survive, and some people sit on the sidelines and laugh at the fight. I'm thankful for those who fought with me. I see you." And to the rest, I paused. I looked directly at my mother, Dave, and Shelley. "I see you too." Silence. Then I sat down. No one clapped. No one had to. Later that night, I left without saying goodbye. But that wasn't the end. That was just the spark. A week after the wedding, the texts started again. This time from my dad. He'd been mostly silent through all of it, even when I was sick. But now he was suddenly concerned about the way I was handling things. His first message, "You embarrassed your mother. She's been crying since the wedding." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I sent one reply, "Good." That set something off. The next day, I got a group message from my mom, Dave, and Shelley. They framed it like an intervention, like I was the one who had gone off the rails. Shelley wrote, "You're bitter. You're taking your anger out on the wrong people. We were there. You just didn't appreciate us." Dave added, "You're turning into a hateful person. Maybe the cancer didn't change you, maybe this is who you always were." That one hit hard. But I didn't respond. Instead, I sent each of them a photo. Just one. It was from the hospital. Me in a hospital bed, face sunken, eyes tired, wrapped in wires and tubes. Tara had taken it one day when I was too weak to lift my arm. At the time, it felt invasive, but now it was proof. Proof of how far gone I was. Proof of what they ignored. No caption. Just the photo. They didn't respond. But I wasn't finished. Tara helped me organize a donation drive. Not in my name, but in memory of patients who didn't survive. We called it the Forgotten Fighters Fund. All proceeds went to help families without support systems. I made it very public. I talked about how hard it is to go through cancer without real family support. A local news outlet picked up the story. I did a short interview. I didn't name names, but I talked about being laughed at during my remission dinner. About how the worst pain didn't come from the disease, it came from the people I thought would protect me. And then something happened I didn't expect. One of the nurses, Bree, reached out again. She asked if she could talk to me in person. We met at a quiet coffee shop near the hospital. She looked nervous. "I probably shouldn't be saying this," she said. "But after that dinner, your mom came back to the hospital. She asked for records. She wanted to see if you'd exaggerated anything." My stomach dropped. She told the receptionist you were dramatic and that she wanted to know how sick you actually were. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. That wasn't just neglect. That wasn't a bad joke or a cruel laugh. That was my own mother trying to erase what I went through. Why would she do that? I asked. Bree shrugged. Some people can't handle not being the victim. I thanked her and went home. That night, I wrote my mother an email. No insults. No shouting. Just the truth. I listed every date she hadn't shown up. Every phone call she didn't return. Every cruel joke she let happen in silence. And at the end, I wrote, "You tried to erase my pain to protect your image. You failed. I won't stay silent for your comfort. You can either face what you did or stay gone." She never replied. But Dave did, a week later. He sent a voicemail. His voice was shaking. "You think you're better than us now? Just because you survived? You're not. You're just alone." He was right about one thing. I was alone. But it wasn't a punishment. It was a choice. And I was about to make another one. I sat with that voicemail from Dave for days. Alone. He was right, I was alone. But not lonely. There's a difference. I wasn't filling my life with people who smiled in public and stabbed in private. I wasn't pretending anymore. And the silence didn't scare me. It felt honest. Clean. But one thing still burned in my gut. The way they got to move on like nothing happened. So I made one final move. I wrote a public essay. I didn't post it on social media. I submitted it to a National Cancer Survivor blog. The editor called me personally after reading it. "I don't usually cry at my desk," she said, "but I cried halfway through your story." The title was simple: I survived cancer. My family didn't. I told everything. Not just about the dinner, but about the quiet abandonment. The way they never checked in. The mocking. The photo of me alone in a hospital bed. I included it. I ended it with the truth about my mother's hospital visit, how she tried to get my medical records to make me look like a liar. It went viral. Over 100,000 shares in the first week. Comments from people who'd gone through the same thing. Strangers. Nurses. cancer survivors. Some said it helped them walk away from toxic families of their own. Then something unexpected happened. Someone from my hometown newspaper reached out. They wanted to run a local piece about me, framed around the Forgotten Fighters Fund. I hesitated at first, but then I said yes. They ran the headline, "Local Cancer Survivor Turns Pain into Power." The article had my full name, and so did my essay. A week later, Dave's job called me. Apparently, a coworker had seen the viral post. They'd figured out the connection. Dave had told people I was barely sick, that I milked it. They were furious. Dave got written up. Later, he was demoted. Then Shelley's church found the article. A member emailed me, said Shelley had led their cancer support prayer group. They were shocked, embarrassed. They asked if I'd be willing to come speak to their congregation. I didn't go, but I sent them a copy of the speech I gave at the wedding. They read it out loud at Sunday service. Shelley left the church the next week. As for my mom, she still hasn't spoken to me, but I know she saw the article. One of her old coworkers emailed me, saying she broke down crying in the break room. That she said, I didn't think she'd actually go public. She didn't apologize. But I didn't expect her to. That's not who she is. But here's what I didn't see coming. Tara sat me down one night. We were eating pizza, watching old reruns. "You've been quiet," she said. "I got what I wanted," I told her. "Did you?" she asked. "Or did you burn the whole village down to prove you were right?" That hit hard. She wasn't wrong. I got my revenge. But I had scorched everything, even the parts that maybe could have been saved. There were times I thought about calling my mom, not to forgive, but to ask her why. Why she let them laugh. Why she let me feel like a burden in the worst year of my life. But every time I thought about it, I'd hear her voice saying, "You were cold last night." That voice doesn't go away. So I made peace with the ashes. I'm not proud of everything I did. Some of it came from pain, not strength. But I am proud of surviving. Not just the cancer. The silence. The cruelty. The disbelief. People say revenge doesn't heal. They're right. But it does clarify. It shows you who they are. And who you were never meant to be.